I started back in today, and sorry for pretty much radio science for pretty much about over a month now, as some personal stuff came up that I had to deal with. Yep, back again today, and going for a little bit something different. As well, since you have a new banlist upcoming, I felt it did lay out a little bit of a possible ground for deck that'll likely get hit. And as the video already entails, we will actually going over Galaxy deck and how much of a toolbox it has been instead of being archetypal deck it has been promoted since X5. Well, before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share for anyone they're interested to help with the algorithm. Well, let's crack into it. Well, starting off, the deck lineup, it's pretty much the deck's standard fare of the full playset of Sun. As well, this pretty much helps the deck practically climb up at a very efficient rate. As Sun, whenever you're in effect places the top Digimon card to bottom sources, you get to Digivolve into any Digimon at a reduced cost of 1. Hence why it's such the main egg instead of moon. And from there, going into rookies. For my build for the deck, it ends up being the bare minimum fare. That being full playset of Luna and full playset of Sun. And with Corona, I mean. Well, with Luna being the main rookie of the deck to set up in the back, with Corona also being the second one. For the most part, both have a star main effect that gains memory. With Corona, you gain memory whenever you have a Nightclaw or Lightfang Tamer on board, while Luna just is the better of the two by bouncing one of your own Digimon to gain 2 memory instead. And well, for both of them, they end up being the main, with both being the key components of the deck's whole gimmick. As once per turn, you can move the top evolution card that's a Lightfang or Nightclaw trait to bottom source to gain 2 memory regardless. Though, bringing up the point, since we're actually near closing up segment, for tech options, you could somehow try to fit in an Uko package to help with consistency of your own preferences. Granted, between the two, obviously BT 16 Uko is pretty much the main one you would want to probably include to increase efficiency by just constantly searching. And then from there on to level 4s, which again is the standard fare for the Galaxy decks branch main lineup. That being full playset of Lekis, full place of Fyra, and full playset of the Nightclaw Galgamon. With Lekis and Fyra pretty much being there to search for your respective your respective trait pieces for both their respective traits and the other, as well as granting a stat boost respectively based off turn. With the Corona line obviously giving extra DP in your turn, well, Luna line has extra DP during the opponent's turn. With Galaga here also being the point of efficiency, as well, you pretty much can make use of it. Well, it's pretty much very well used for the deck. As on Evolve, you force both players to draw, if the opponent has any more cards, or if this Digimon has three or more sources, you get to gain 1 memory. And pair that with Sun's effect, the Digivolve for reduced cost of 1, you practically gain that for free once you do your Corona Luna shenanigans at this early on in the game. Also granting the stack jamming, which is its main use for the deck. And then going from there, on to our level 5 lineup, which for me, I felt is just the normal, is also the normal fare. Now you also can change this up subject to your playstyle, with the normal fare light mostly being 4 Cressa, 2 Fyra, and then 2 Hon-Kun. With Cressa here being with both Cressa and Flare being able to be digivolved into a reduced cost of 2, effectively going up for 1 cost, as long as you have a Digimon with 3 or more sources on board. And both Cressa having it on play when digivolving, both having a Cressa on play when digivolving that ends up hurting the opponent. Cressa pretty much freezes down any opposing Digimon from suspending, while Fyra just punches out anything that's 5,000 DP or less, and respectively they gave plus 2,000 DP on the respective turn, while Hon-Kun is the normal fare of spawning a body from source to then be made use for pretty much material later. In this case, since in the only case really, with Luna coming out from here, and if you don't use it to be fuel for Hon-Kun's inheritable, you actually can make use of Luna's own effect to bounce itself to hand to gain 2 memory, since it still triggers. Obviously, this is also where I've started noticing some Toolbox aspects, as other cards you can include would be Zudo Ace for tech, Magalga for tech, to be able to bounce a level 4 lower Digimon board, or a new pick given Ex8 support ends up being War Grelimon from BT17 here. Since, on Digivolving, you get to delete opposing Digimon that's 6,000 EP or less. But if it doesn't, this Digimon gains Sec +1 for the turn. And in addition, it grants the inheritable of when effect deletes opposing Digimon, while this Digimon is gallant in name, you get to unsuspend. And that already tips off to one possible top end that I brought up. That'll be brought up later. Though another one that I don't really have on hand rarely is the Garurumon Ace from BT15, which for most part is used to pretty much cheat out the Tamer of the deck. From there, that closes out our level 5s. Now on to our level 6s, which for the most part ends up being why I prefer to call the Galaxy deck preferably towards Galaxy Toolbox now. Might as well go over the standard fare seen in Galaxy before going over anything new first. For the most part, I still run the 1 copy of EX5 Apollo, and the change this time being, for most, is bringing up Mirage Ground down to 2, while also running 2 copies of Hexablow. Apollon being the standard fare of being a very aggro bruiser Also being control, being able to snipe out any opposing Digimon that has less DP than itself, whenever security breaks, and it remains on board. Mirage go for the usual memory printing, and will definitely feel like it's going to be the next thing getting hit in the ban list. And Hexabo for its usual shenanigans, pretty much locking down being an equally big bruiser that can run over most things, especially so here, given how much of a stack you can build, how big of a stack you can make. Also controlling the Tamer presence on board if there's no more Digimon with sources after it, or he trashes after controls source one time. And then on to my current additions to Toolboxing, which for this case, I end up running one copy of Dynamon from Ex8, with the main reasoning here just being another pseudo floodgate in a sense, with this having also being a very big bruiser as well, being another Sec 1 body in the deck, and being able to suspend down opposing Digimon, suspend down any Digimon, then take out any opposing Digimon that has the lowest DP on board. And during the opponent's turn, it pretty much blocks the opponent from attempting to get the player, since while this card is suspended, all opposing Digimon can only attack suspended Digimon. And even if they manage to delete it, as long as it's stack, Fortitude is active for it to be able to come back by ditching its own sources and be a nuisance all over again. Then from there, I also run one copy of Medieval Gallant in here. And, well, this card has already pretty much made itself known throughout the game already, being an equally oppressive card in its own right. For the most part, it pretty much can suspend down any two Digimon to reduce its own hard play cost by 4, bring it down to 7, and is an Alliance and Vortex keyword body, which ends up working really well since Alliance can activate while also vortexing. And on Digivolve, you get to suspend down one Digimon, and then you get to delete an opposing Digimon that's 8,000 DP or lower, while also increasing that threshold by 2,000 for each suspended Digimon on board. And for its most oppressive is that this effect can be triggered can trigger all turns whenever a Digimon is played out. And then for the coup de grace of this lineup being 2 copies of the new Gallant X from the X8. Being able to, be digivolved into quite reasonably, especially given the X's own ability to pretty much cheat the whole process. And, on Digivolve, for its first one digivolving, or when attacking, while you have Gallant X, or, in this case, given how the lineup is, it's more so relying on X-Antibody to trigger this effect. As well, you get to gain plus 4,000, and dish out minus 4,000 on opposing Digimon. And with its main use effect, even if you don't have X-Antibody, being its one Digivolving and attack ability to delete opposing Digimon that's 1,000 DP or fewer. And if it doesn't get to delete anything, you get to remove the top of security and unsuspend. As well as its other oppressive effect being the all turns, add 0 less memory. This Digimon is unaffected by opposing Digimon effects. And that ends up feeling, given how I built the deck, this also ends up appealing into, well, Dynamon. As you could already guess, I end up putting in X-Antibody, which in this case can fuel Dynamon when can pretty much give Dynamon an extra life. Given that Fortitude just requires this Digimon to have a source when it's deleted to then be replayed out. Alternatively, though, given its own color history, you could, well, still continuing more for the blue side, throw in either Ancient Guru, Ryugu, or also add in Dynamon back in for other routes, especially with Ryugu being paired with Zudomon, Ancient Guru being another avenue to cheat out your Tamer, and Dyna being another control with her ability to strip source and grant a blanket all no source Digimon from suspending. That's it for the Digimon lineup. Now on to... well, hey, never mind. I actually forgot. I actually ran these again. But for a level 7 lineup, it ends up being a 1-1 split of Gabubond Ace and Imperial Digimon Paladin Mode Ace for respective reasons. With Gabubond here pretty much still being used, especially with the new tech of Gallant X and, well, pretty much just Gallant X, really. And, well, this already runs really well with the deck, given that you pretty much are able to hit two opposing Digimon and bounce them to bot deck, since, again, you create some very big stacks in this deck already. While Paladin Mode Ace here is more so a addition in response to adding in the likes of Dynamon and the medieval Gallant, as well as being more useful, pretty useful, considering the mostly blue top end as well. Well, as it's given its own fair share in the game. Going over it more briefly, it essentially just resets, well, clears all sources from the opposing side, and you could then send back the whole trash by their side back to bottom deck, and if you hit a level 7 weight, you get to benefit by gaining 3 memory back, with that essentially just being set up for its ability to pretty much do consecutive attacks by simply bouncing back no source Digimon already. And finally, that's it for the Digimon lineup. Now on to, straight to Tamers lineup. That being the deck's main Tamer card to look at, being Koensayo as the main Tamer for the deck, given that it's the memory server and facilitates a lot of cheating play, Digivolution cheating, as both on play and main, you get to spend this Tamer down, and pretty much move Light Source, downgrade a Light Fang and Night Claw trait Digimon to then Digivolve up into a new Digimon at no cost. And again, this is where most of this deck's infamy comes from, as when Koensayo is played, either by hard playing or through security, you can pretty much de-digi and digi a Nightclaw and Light Fang Digimon on board to pretty much pivot, or to climb up into any off archetype for free from this effect. And then from there, closing out the deck list is options. for the most part, for utility options, I end up running a three copies of Wisteria Boost, and a variety of how things look. 1 blue scramble and 1 red scramble for use. Since although it's a little bit iffy, a little bit janky given this combination, but they still have their uses, since you pretty much, with both, obviously, can pretty much just evolve up for pretty much 2 costs with this effect, and set aside a delay option that allows you to recur a piece that you're missing back to top deck, as long as the opponent has a Digimon. Heck, even on an empty board, you can make use of this, obviously spawning the respective Digimon, blue with Luna, and Corona for red, to then have them set up for your next turn. And the security effects is also relevant, given that you also can spawn both from trash off of their security effects. And to round it off, I end up running 2 copies of X-Antibody from BT9, just because of its more utility use within how the decks function. Since you could just simply stack this underneath one of your Digimon to pretty much just increase its source count. Heck, it's also, unlike Pro Form, protected from being able to be trashed. And this also allows the Gallant X play by pretty much just going into on swing. That's it for the deck itself. Now on to the combos. Going into combos now, for the most part, for the starting off hand, obviously you'd want to see your rookies in the deck just to start off the plays. As well, pretty much that ends up being the full game plan starting off. As well, the starting main effects are sort of secondary, give or take the situation. As for the most part, your first turn is trying to have the condition of these 2 set up in the back, just to get memory gain to start seeing plays. And the obvious next objective would be to see your other line in or other Duskull and Lightfang trait cards to climb up the line, with the main idea just being able to constantly climb up pretty fast come your turn. Then from there, Hongkun and the level 6 lineup and your Tamer and Wisteria Marin Boost are secondary. And pretty much the rest of the deck is just the bottom of the rung in terms of what you want to see starting off. Since for the most part, as stated, that how the Galaxy engine works, it pretty much just relies on Corona and Luna being able to constantly, pivot the stack, really. As you can pretty much move back down and turn into any other train hand, and where it ends up bottlenecking towards Crescent and Flare, depending on what top end you see in your hand. Since for the most part, the only variable within the deck right now is still Apollomon. While the others, given that, granted, the other leeway is with the Gauntlet X here, given that's both red and blue to make use of. While the Mirage Gao and Hexablow and Dino and Medieval Gallant as evil targets is still up in the air variables. And then again, Red Scramble and Blue Scramble are in here to help with deck efficiency, since you pretty much are playing a very toolboxy deck. since most of these tie-ins are pretty much off archetype. And speaking of my tangent of toolboxing, another idea came to mind when I scoured through upcoming sets. In this case, for international, is Special Booster 2.5, with a particular top end piquing my interest in its ability to play in Galaxy. The case in point being the new Espeon top end, Invisimon, with its very unique ability to be able to be quite useful within the Galaxy engine. Since it pretty much sets itself up to be quite useful for the toolboxy nature Galaxy sees itself in. Since it has an on-play and when digivolving de-digital effect, and it pretty much sets itself up for its ability to leave the sack behind and set itself face up in security. And then, if the opponent doesn't deal with it at the end of their turn while it's face up in security, it gets to bring itself back out as a free body, which you can make use of coming your turn. And well, that's it for the breakdown for this deck. For the most part, the Galaxy engine, I pretty much made this more or less ahead of time of, the upcoming ban list, with the inking suspicion that, Raja's likely going to get hit to a degree, given how much everyone seems to be hating it now in the community. But yep, that has been my look at the Galaxy engine. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this around to anyone interested to help with the algorithm. And this is Cyberjaw, signing off.